First Battle of Newbury. Why did the war refuse to end? What happens when a king marches on his own capital, convinced he'll be welcomed with open arms, only to find the gates barred and the cannons loaded? Why did the First Battle of Newbury become a brutal 14-hour slugfest that ended in a draw, despite both sides throwing everything they had into the fray? How did a cannonball miss Lord Essex by just a yard, and why did shopkeepers from London suddenly become the last line of defense against the royalist cavalry? And what was the shocking aftermath of Edgehill, the first major clash of the war, that left England not with a victor, but with a question? Who actually runs this country? This is the story of momentum without victory, of sieges without surrender, and of a race against time where every misstep could mean the fall of Parliament and the rise of royal absolutism. From the muddy fields of Edgehill, where the war began with confusion and cannon smoke, to the desperate march to London, where Charles I hoped to reclaim his throne by force, and finally to the blood-soaked hills of Newbury, where the fate of the capital hung by a thread. This is not just a history lesson. It's a thriller. It's a tragedy. It's a comedy of errors with muskets. So buckle up, because this battle is about to be revealed. It was October 1642, and England was already bleeding. The Battle of Edgehill, the first major clash of the English Civil War, had left the Earl of Essex's parliamentary army battered and demoralized. They limped northward, seeking refuge behind the stone walls of Warwick Castle, their pride shattered and their cause shaken. Meanwhile, King Charles I, jubilant at the news of his army's performance, saw opportunity. Urged on by his fiery cavalry commander, Prince Rupert of the Rhine, Charles ordered a measured advance toward London, the heart of Parliament's power and the prize that could end the war before it truly began. Charles moved with precision. He advanced through Banbury, which surrendered on October 26th, and then took Oxford, a city that would soon become the royalist capital, a beating heart of loyalty, strategy, and resistance. But while the main armies danced dangerously close to England's capital, the war was already spreading like wildfire across the countryside. In the north, Earl of Newcastle, Charles' appointed military governor, assembled a disciplined royalist force. He faced off against Lord Fairfax and his brilliant young son, Sir Thomas Fairfax. Throughout 1642, Newcastle gained ground in Yorkshire, pushing Parliament's forces back to Selby. His success was so pronounced that by December, he received royal thanks for his service. In the West Country, near the Welsh border, a smaller war of raids and counter-raids unfolded. Though less dramatic, it was no less important. Here too, the king's men gained the upper hand, slowly tightening the royalist grip on the periphery. Back near London, Charles paused at Reading to consolidate his forces. But this delay proved costly. Essex, moving swiftly via Northampton, managed to reach London first, securing the capital before the royalists could arrive. Then came Brentford, November 11th. Rupert's cavalry caught 2 regiments of parliamentarian horse and mauled them. But instead of consolidating, Rupert's men looted the town, a reckless echo of the 30 Years' War. Though the plundering was mild by continental standards, it terrified the locals. In response, citizens began forming militias, ready to defend their homes. The war was no longer just between armies, it was now between king and country. When the royalists reached Turnham Green, just miles from London, they were met by a staggering force. 24,000 parliamentarians, including Essex's battered but determined army, London's trained bands, civilians armed with whatever they could find them. The royalist army, low on supplies and weakened from Edgehill, faced a grim choice. If they attacked, they risked slaughtering Londoners, a move that could turn the entire nation against the king. So after a tense all-day standoff, Charles ordered a retreat at dusk. This moment was pivotal. The royalists had failed to retake London, and with it, they lost access to its wealth, its industry, its ports, its strategic value. London would remain the keystone of parliamentarian power. Charles dispersed his army to winter quarters in Oxford and surrounding towns, where royalist support was strongest. Over the winter, Oxford transformed into a military capital, its university halls echoing with the sounds of marching boots and clashing swords. Meanwhile, Essex, still commanding a numerically superior force, ended the year by besieging and capturing Reading. But both armies were plagued by disease, supply issues, and exhaustion. A stalemate settled over the Thames Valley. Essex's army wintered in place, dormant but not defeated, waiting for the next campaign season to begin. Now pause for a sec. Join the front lines of history and power. Welcome to European Battle, where epic clashes, legendary warriors, and untold stories come alive. By subscribing and turning on notifications, you're not just joining a channel, you're stepping into a world of thrilling battles, strategic brilliance, and jaw-dropping historical drama. From ancient empires to modern warfare, we deliver cinematic storytelling, expert insights, and exclusive content that will leave you breathless. Why subscribe? Unlock premium battle breakdowns and rare historical footage. Be the first to witness new episodes and live events. Join a passionate community of history lovers and strategy minds. Fuel your curiosity with facts, theories, and fierce debates. Don't just watch history, live it. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to never miss a moment of the action. Your front row seat to Europe's greatest battles is just one click away. European Battle, where legends clash. After the tense standoff at Turnham Green, London braced for the worst. The city's citizens, merchants, apprentices, and laborers picked up shovels and began digging earthworks, building makeshift fortifications, and preparing for a siege that never came. The dream of a swift royalist victory had evaporated. By the dawn of 1643, it was clear. This war would be long, bitter, and fought in every corner of the kingdom. King Charles faced a dire problem. His army was starved of gunpowder and match, the lifeblood of 17th century warfare. Salvation came from across the sea. His wife, Queen Henrietta Maria, was ferrying hundreds of barrels of munitions, supplies, and gold from the Low Countries to Oxford. But there was a catch. The Royalists had failed to capture any major southern ports, so the Queen's convoy had to dock at Bridlington, a northern coastal town under the control of Earl of Newcastle. Between Charles and his Queen lay a wedge of parliamentarian-held territory. To clear the path, Newcastle launched a campaign to dominate Yorkshire's clothing towns, vital for supplies and morale. In early spring, the Royalists surged. On March 30th, Newcastle's fiery subordinate, George Goring, crushed the northern parliamentarians at Seacroft Moor, near Leeds. George Goring was a charismatic, reckless commander, brilliant in battle, but prone to indulgence and intrigue. His victory seemed to seal Royalist dominance in the north. But the Fairfaxes weren't done. On the night of May 21st, Sir Thomas Fairfax launched a daring night assault on Wakefield. It was a masterstroke. Goring was captured, and the Royalists were stunned. Newcastle, now short on troops, couldn't spare any to escort the Queen. Henrietta Maria remained in York, waiting. Meanwhile, in the south, Lord Essex roused Parliament's main army and laid siege to Reading, a key defensive link protecting Oxford. After a 2-week blockade, Reading fell on April 25th. But Essex's cautious nature and a devastating typhus outbreak crippled his army. The strategic initiative slipped through his fingers, giving Royalist forces a much-needed breathing space. On June 1st, Henrietta Maria left York with 5,000 men. Though spotted by Essex's scouts, she was not intercepted. As she moved south, Newcastle's army crushed Thomas Fairfax at Adwalton Moor, securing Yorkshire and besieging the parliamentarians at Hull. With the path clear, Prince Rupert, fresh from successful raids, rode north to escort his Queen. On July 14th, she entered Oxford to rapturous applause, bells ringing in celebration. But the Royalists weren't safe yet. In the west, Sir William Waller led the Western Association Army, threatening to cut off Royalist communication with Wales, a key recruiting ground. Opposing him was Sir Ralph Hopton, a brilliant Royalist commander and former comrade of Waller from the 30 Years' War. Hopton was a strict disciplinarian, known for his motto, "Pay well, command well, hang well." After setbacks, Hopton rallied and defeated Waller at Lansdowne Hill in early July. But fate intervened. While inspecting prisoners, Hopton was injured by an exploding powder magazine. Waller seized the moment, nearly trapping Hopton at Devizes. But reinforcements from Oxford arrived, and the Royalists struck back at the Battle of Roundway Down. Their cavalry charge shattered the parliamentarian line. In the chaos, terrified Roundhead horsemen accidentally charged down a hidden 300-foot drop, later known as Bloody Ditch. The Western Association Army was annihilated. News of the victory reached Oxford. Charles dispatched Prince Rupert with 5,500 troops to capitalize. The original target was Gloucester, but Waller's retreat bolstered its defenses. Instead, Rupert turned to Bristol, England's second-largest city, rich in metalworking and home to a small fleet, perfect for a royalist navy. Rupert, whose very name was half a conquest, reached Bristol on July 23rd. 3 days later, his forces stormed the outer defenses and captured a gate. Realizing resistance was futile, Governor Nathaniel Fiennes surrendered. The Royalists seized 80 guns, 1,700 barrels of gunpowder, 6,000 muskets, but the cost was steep. 500 Royalists killed in the assault. Flush with victory, the Royalist War Council met on August 4th. The next target, Gloucester, a city of 5,000, controlling the Severn River and vital communications. After exploring the grit and exhaustion of the First Battle of Newbury, it's worth asking, how do we recover from our own daily battles? Whether it's long hours at work, chronic back pain, or simply the need to unwind, introducing the Garvey Home Powerlift Recliner Chair offers a sanctuary of comfort right in your living room. Powerlift function gently raises you to a standing position, ideal for those with mobility challenges or joint pain. Massage and heat therapy. Built-in vibration massage and lumbar heating soothe sore muscles and promote circulation. Ergonomic design supports your spine and hips with plush cushioning and a wide 22-inch seat for maximum comfort. Convenience features: dual cup holders, side pocket for remotes or books, and easy-to-clean PU leather in a classic beige finish. As we age, comfort isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. This chair isn't just furniture, it's a tool for restoration, independence, and dignity. Whether you're watching documentaries, reading, or simply relaxing, the Garvey Home Recliner helps you do it without strain or discomfort. You've lived through your own battles, raising families, building careers, and navigating life's ups and downs. You deserve a chair that honors that journey. The Garvey Home Recliner is more than a seat. It's a place to rest, reflect, and recharge. You can find the Garvey Home Powerlift Recliner Chair via the link in my bio below. Every purchase made through our Amazon link helps support this channel. We earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. Thank you for helping us keep history alive while investing in your own comfort. By August 10th, Royalist armies surrounded the city, but instead of surrender, they were met with fierce resistance from Governor Edward Massey. On August 13th, the Earl of Forth began a bombardment. The siege had begun. The summer of 1643 was the high watermark of Royalist success. Cities fell, armies were crushed, and the king's cause surged. But the siege of Gloucester would test that momentum, and the war was far from over. When news reached London that Gloucester was surrounded, Parliament practically spilled its tea. The city was a vital stronghold. If it fell, the Royalists would control the Severn River, and the war might be over before Parliament could say constitutional monarchy. In a flurry of urgency, Lord Essex's army was reinforced with fresh troops and the London-trained bands, a militia of shopkeepers, apprentices, and anyone who could hold a musket without dropping it. Meanwhile, in the east, the Earl of Manchester was handed command of the Eastern Association Army. He appointed a relatively unknown cavalry officer as his second-in-command, a man with a stern face, a sharp tongue, and a name that would echo through history: Oliver Cromwell. On August 25th, Essex's army began its march westward. Royalist forces tried to trip him up like mischievous schoolboys, but Essex pressed on. On September 5th, he reached Pressbury Hill, where the spires of Gloucester Cathedral pierced the horizon like divine beacons. To let the besieged city know help was near, Essex's men fired off a cannon salute, a 17th-century version of "We're here, lads." The sound echoed across the countryside, and inside Gloucester, morale soared. Charles, realizing his month-long siege had failed, packed up his cannons and retreated to Bristol. But Essex's army, now bloated with London's defenders, was ripe for destruction. If the Royalists could crush him, they'd not only win the battle, they'd leave London itself exposed. Essex, no fool, tried to outfox the Cavaliers. He marched to Tewkesbury, pretending he might invade Wales or take the long way home. But Charles wasn't buying it. On September 15th, Essex made a dash south, hoping to slip past the Royalists. Unfortunately, Prince Rupert's scouts spotted the movement. Like bloodhounds on a scent, they caught up with Essex at Aldbourne Chase, savaged his overextended army, and forced him to delay his march. Charles's army then overtook Essex and occupied Newbury, placing themselves between Essex and London. The trap was set. On the gloomy morning of September 20th, Essex, usually cautious, decided to fight his way out. He rallied his 8,000 infantry and 6,000 cavalry, asking his vanguard if they were ready. Their reply? "Let us fall upon them. We will, by God's assistance, beat it from them all." At 6 a.m., Essex led 4,000 infantry and a handful of horsemen toward Round Hill, a strategic height the royalists had completely overlooked. The parliamentarians took it with ease. Prince Rupert, ever the dashing cavalier, rode out with 900 musketeers and cavalry to seize Round Hill, only to find it bristling with 2,500 parliamentarians. He left Colonel George Lisle to hold position and galloped back to Newbury, likely muttering, "Well, that escalated quickly." Charles's war council scrambled to respond. The royalist army deployed in 3 sections. Wing Commander, Terrain Right, William Vavasour, enclosed Kennet River Valley Center. Sir Nicholas and John Byron, assaulting Round Hill left, Prince Rupert, open Wash Common. Charles raised his royal banner on a hill in the Kennet Valley, signaling the start of the day's carnage. Vavasour's troops advanced through dense hedgerows, perfect for defense, but terrible for attack. Parliamentarian artillery from Round Hill rained down, and the royalist foot was blunted with heavy losses. Parliament's infantry counterattacked, gaining ground until Charles's lifeguard cavalry intervened. For the rest of the day, both sides glared at each other across the valley, like angry neighbors with cannons. The Byrons led their men up Round Hill only to be met with musketeers and emplaced culverins. The hill turned into a meat grinder. Among the fallen was Lord Falkland, a melancholic intellectual who had once said he hoped to die in battle. He got his wish. A musket ball ended his life. Royalist cavalry briefly broke through, but Essex's reserve officers plugged the gap with disciplined volley fire, repelling the charge and holding the hill. On Wash Common, Prince Rupert organized 6,000 cavalry and launched a charge at Sir Philip Stapleton's horsemen, who were still tying their boots. Stapleton rallied and used delayed volley tactics to drive Rupert back, twice. But on the third charge, Rupert flanked the parliamentarians, forcing them to retreat to Skinner's Green Lane. Later, the London-trained bands marched into the breach, repelling another charge. The royalists responded with a massive artillery barrage, but the trained bands, shopkeepers turned soldiers, held firm on the open plain. By 4 p.m., the shelling had weakened the parliamentarian line. Rupert led a thunderous cavalry charge, tearing open Essex's front. Just as things looked grim, Essex himself galloped into the chaos, rallying his troops. A cannonball reportedly landed a yard from him, but he didn't flinch. The red and blue trained bands turned and charged the royalists, reforming the line and saving the day. By 7 p.m., both sides were exhausted. The battle had raged for 14 hours. Charles's army retreated to Newbury for the night. The next morning, they chose not to re-engage, either due to low gunpowder or shattered morale. Both sides lost around 1,300 men. Essex escaped to London. The battle was tactically inconclusive like Edgehill the year before. But it proved Parliament could stand its ground, even against the king's finest. Though Charles' forces were dominant as 1643 drew to a close, the winds of war were shifting. Parliament's allies in the far north were preparing to enter the fray. The royalist summer had ended, and winter was coming, with muskets, alliances, and a man named Cromwell. Before we dive deeper into cannon smoke, cavalry charges, and kings who thought they could waltz into London like it was a garden party, make sure to follow us. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell like it's a warning shot from Round Hill, because you won't want to miss what's coming next. We've got more gripping tales of battlefield blunders, heroic last stands, and political drama that makes modern politics look like a tea party. So if you love history served with a twist of suspense and a splash of humor, this is your front row seat. Click that bell to get notified the moment we drop another story that'll make you say, "Wait, that actually happened?"